This film's about a walking holiday in Catalonia. Catalonia has its own language and is an autonomous community in the northeast of Spain. Walking was an excellent way of discovering something of its culture, landscape and wildlife. Our first day was in l'Escala, which is north of Barcelona. No walking that day, but we did some snorkelling and were amazed by the number of fish we saw despite the beach being crowded. Early the next day we began our walk from l'Escala and stopped off at the nearby Greek and Roman excavations. This site is historically significant because it was one of the most important commercial ports in the Mediterranean in the 5th century BC. As we walked around, we could hear the sound of music. It got louder as we got to the Roman part of the ancient site. And to our delight, there, in the forum, were people dancing. We later discovered that the dance, which is called the sardana, is a traditional Catalan circle dance. It's accompanied by music played by a special sort of band called a cobbler band, which has 10 wind instruments, a double bass, and a little drum called a tamburi. Anyone can join in, but we weren't quite brave enough. The arrangement was that we would walk up to about 10 miles a day, and our luggage would be transported to our destination by the tour operator. The Costa Brava is beautiful, but walking on the sand was really hard work. It was good to have distractions like watching kite surfing. The following day was much easier. The firm ground of a riverside walk was a relief, and we had the pleasure of seeing lots of wildlife. This nature reserve is the second most important refuge for wetland birds in Catalonia. It's also played an important role in the reintroduction of the white stork to Spain. Our stopping place that night was Castello d'Empúries, which is a small medieval town at the top of a hill inland. Incidentally, this is where the British couple who organised our tour have settled. It has few cars and its narrow streets have great charm. Our next destination was the prosperous seaside resort of Cadaqués. There's something special about the light in Cadaqués, and it's attracted a lot of artists, including Picasso, Matisse and Duchamp, and is particularly associated with the surrealist Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali was actually born in Figueres, which we went to later, but as a child he often spent his holidays in Cadaqués. He loved it so much that when he grew up he bought some cottages nearby and converted them into a house. It's now a museum. He lived there with his wife Gala from about 1949 until she died in 1982. He was a strange fellow. He liked to hear the sound of birds singing when he woke up in the morning, so he kept some in a cage near his bedroom. Well, I suppose that's okay. But what about this? He also liked the sound of cicadas, so he kept some of those in a tiny cage. The weather looks bright here, but by the time we got back to central Cadaqués, it was very windy. I was worried about this car. When it was first parked, the parking place was completely dry. The poor owner of the car must have got a shock when he saw what had happened. The storm continued that night, and we watched it from our snug and dry hotel bedroom. All was clear the next day, and we were able to enjoy a lovely walk through the mountains. These blackberries may look quite ordinary, but they were the sweetest I've ever tasted. Port de la Selva is a traditional fishing village which still has fishing as its main source of income. It also gets lots of income from tourists in the summer. We didn't see any fish being landed, but all over Catalonia we ate wonderful seafood. Our final walk took us past the ruins of St. Pere de Rode Monastery, slightly inland towards a village called Paulo Cervadera. I think perhaps this lizard was the most exotic creature I saw on our trip. The main attraction of Paulo Cervadera is wonderful views of mountains and the sea. On our last day we were driven to Figueres, Salvador Dali's birthplace. After a visit to the Dali Museum, we spent the day waiting for our train. We were lucky because it turned out that there was a wine festival on. We went to a free concert where wine tasting was also free and almost obligatory. We were entertained with Catalan folk songs.
Anireu circulant, anireu cap allà a buscar una copeta i anireu escoltant la nostra. I la cançó es torna agraïna, riba al Rosselló. Aniríem fins a Salses, però els francesos s'hi han ficat. I la cançó es torna
In the evening we went to the main wine tasting event. The system was that you paid for a little set of vouchers and a tasting glass. Then you could go around all the stalls and choose 6 different types of wine and have 6 tasters of sausage or cheese snacks. A merry way to prepare ourselves for our journey home.